Hey there. Hello, how do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. Yes, it is. It is summer 1985, and I am working at the Winter Garden Theater. As you know, I am selling cats merchandise and buttons, as you know. And over in the lobby, in the corner of the lobby of the Winter Garden Theater, there is a station which has headphones for the hearing impaired. And the company that represents those sends a representative out to be in charge of the headphones during the sales period before the show. And it was usually a fascinating and beautiful young woman who was helming the headphones station. Yes. And this individual, a number of different ones throughout the seasons, throughout the years, because the headphones company was forever spiriting the headphones representative away to another theater up the street, up Broadway. Yes. But in the meantime, the headphone representative, this young woman, whomever it would be there as part of the Winter Garden lobby staff and was part of pretty much the, huge dysfunctional family that the lobby staff of the Winter Garden Theater was. And we would wind up chatting and hanging around and in some cases getting to be good friends. And it was a lovely opportunity for me to get a crush on a girl. And another lovely opportunity later on when they spirited her away to get a crush on another girl. And another lovely opportunity when they spirited her away to get a crush on another girl. Yes, I know. This is what I do. I know. So, the first one to show up in the lobby and step on my heart, that is to say, entrance my heart, was a statuesque young beauty by the name of Cabiria. Yes, she was a statuesque young woman, statuesque with the form and figure and posture, an excellent posture of a prima ballerina. Yes, she was, and don't tell me that excellent posture isn't attractive because, oh, it is. Yes, she had a wicked sense of humor and an easy laugh. She was a notable beauty, and we hit it off reasonably well soon enough into her tenure there in the lobby. So we would spend our breaks together. Now, during the show, when the show is up and running, Act One is our break time after we balance the books for the t shirts and restock the cart. And Act Two, when the Jellicles are dancing, that's when is our break. We just either hang around or go drink or whatever. So Cabiria and I would go around the corner on 51st Street. There was a deli there, and I would get a cup of coffee and sometimes a candy bar. And Cabiria would get a fruit popsicle. And then we would cross Broadway, we'd cross the street, and we'd sit across the street from the Winter Garden Theater, talking and laughing and smoking dope. Yes. We would, I'd be drinking my coffee and eating my candy bar. Sometimes I get a candy bar, a Kit Kat or something. And we'd be sitting there smoking dope. You had to be, you know, you had to be careful because you're in broad daylight. But if you keep things on the down low, we were smoking cigarettes anyway, and I had my opera pipe so that you could just put that in your pocket at any given time. So, you know what I mean? You got to be moderately discreet, but then you can smoke dope in public. It's fantastic. And Cabiria had a fascinating life. She had an upbringing completely different from mine. She grew up in a commune, for crying out loud, a bona fide hippies commune. Yes, she had a multi-ethnic heritage when she was growing up, and she had this mane of black hair that went out in that cascaded out in every direction. Uh, she had an exotic beauty to her smile and her face, just delightful. And I can't tell you what contest she won on the very front steps of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. I could tell you, but I won't. Yes, Cabiria was a world traveler, and she did spend a lot of time in France, in Paris, and in Spain. Yes. So, with a fascinating story like that, of course I was crushing on her. Of course I was. Oh yeah. Speaking of course, you know what else? Of course, she had a boyfriend. Yeah, of course she had a boyfriend. Well, that might as well happen. It didn't affect our relationship at all. You know, we were still co-workers who could make each other laugh and spend time smoking dope and telling stories to each other. You know, it was fantastic to have a co-worker, a hilarious friend like that, who with whom we could spend time easily without any difficulties or anything like that. Yes, she was fantastic. It was a win-win situation. Yes. So after a few weeks there, and we're pretty good chums, you know, I'm not going to jeopardize anything by telling her that I've got a crush on her. She doesn't need to know that. But the headphone company spirited her away to another theater up the street, and they installed yet another beautiful young woman as a headphones representative. Now, this individual was almost a polar opposite from Cabiria. This individual was petite and blonde and shy and timid and sort of a shrinking violet of a person. And she was. She had huge blue eyes and naturally long eyelashes. She was sweetly pretty. And I liked her right away. And we noticed when we met about each other, we noticed or recognized that each other was a damaged individual. And yeah, and so we hit it off. Now, when we spent time on our breaks together, it wasn't so much laughter as it was with Cabiria. It wasn't. We spent a lot of time commiserating and talking about how difficult life is in this modern age in the 1980s on New York City. Yes, we spent a lot of time doing that. And I liked her and I wanted to after a while, of course I was crushing on her a little bit, and so I wanted to ask her out on a date, and I did. And eventually we went a couple of Sundays later to a Chinese Hunan restaurant not too far from her apartment. Yes. I had some sort of Hunan chicken. It was spicy as hell and it was delicious. Yes. Anyhow, it was so New Yorky to be walking home carrying our leftovers up Broadway, walking down the street up Broadway, carrying our leftovers in a bag, in a doggy bag. Yes, they used to call them doggy bags. When you were leaving a restaurant, instead of saying, "Would you like a carry out, or would you like a box with that, or would you like a takeout box with that?" No, they would say, "Would you like a doggy bag with that?" Yes, you boomers will remember that. Any of you do remember that? Comment on that one. You remember taking home food in a doggy bag? Yeah, they called it a doggy bag because the theory was that you were going to give the leftovers to your doggy instead of being a slob standing in the kitchen at 1:30 in the morning eating all the leftovers in the house. Anyhow, you remember a doggy bag? Like and comment. Thank you. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about that. Anyhow, we're walking up Broadway with our leftovers, and we got to her apartment. And I could tell that the vibe wasn't so much that we were going to be a romantic couple. I could tell that that was the deal. We had a nice hug and a smooch at the end of the date. You know, she had to get up early. I wasn't going to stay. There was nothing like that in the air. And so the next day at work and the next couple of weeks at work, everything was fine. Everything was fine. It was we were still good chums. Nothing changed at all. it was just a little bit clearer to me that we weren't destined to be a romantic couple. And then after another week or so, she was spirited away by the headphone company, and they installed yet another fascinating young individual. The next woman to step on my heart, that is to say, oh, forget it. Exactly. Was another statuesque beauty by the name of Corinna. Yes. And I said that Cabiria was a statuesque beauty, and she was a statuesque beauty like a prima ballerina. She was statuesque in that way. Corinna was statuesque because she was like a statue of a warrior princess. She was tall and broad-shouldered and very curvy, and you might even say zaftig. Oh, she had this long dark hair down to her elbows and this huge aquiline nose. It was so beautiful. She looked like an eagle. She was fantastically pretty. So of course I was crushing on her immediately. Yes. Well, so I got the nerve up after a couple of weeks to ask her out to dinner. And she said, yeah, I'll go out to dinner with you. And I thought that was an interesting energy to have, but sure. Because here's the thing. I couldn't quite make Corinna out. I couldn't figure out what her deal was because she had a sharp, sort of a hard edge to her that surfaced every now and then that made me realize if she and I were if back in high school together, she would have been the kind of girl who made fun of me. Yeah, she was just a little bit too foxy, a little bit too commercially attractive, and I'm a little bit too much of a schlemiel for this to work out. Right. But I get I decide to like not let that get in the way, and I asked her out, and so lo and behold, Sunday or so later, it's our night off. We go downtown to a Ukrainian diner. Now I got to tell you about this Ukrainian diner. They had a bowl of soup. Oh, that was forevermore a bowl of soup for the ages. It might sound kind of funny, but they had a bowl of chicken soup that was the best chicken soup I ever had. It was fantastic. Now, here's what they did. They had 3 bins behind the counter, a bin with noodles, a bin with chicken, and a bin with broth. And they'd put a huge bowl on the counter, and they'd put a splop of noodles in that from the first bin, a chicken breast from the second bin on top of those noodles, and then they would fill the bowl with steaming chicken broth, steaming delicious chicken broth. And that was forevermore a formidable bowl of soup. It was a meal, and they served it with this most delicious bread, challah. Yes. Which brings me to the next point. There came a point in the dinner when I realized just the kind of individual that Corinna is. When she openly flirted with the waiter when I was ordering, when he was bringing us the food. He said, enjoy your dinner, enjoy the challah. And Corinna said, challah? And he looked at her and he smiled. He leaned over a little bit too close. He was a little bit too handsome for my liking, actually. And he said, no, challah. And she said, challah? And he said, no. And they moved in closer. And she's smiling at him and he's smiling at her. And he says, challah. And they look at each other and they're almost nose to nose. And my jaw is dropping. I'm like, are they going to kiss each other right here in front of me? And they say together in unison, they say, challah. And I'm like, oh, I finally recognize the kind of individual that Corinna is. She's the kind of individual who is, yes, the kind of individual who would openly flirt with a waiter in front of her date. She's the kind of girl who would have made fun of me. She was probably a mean girl in high school, right? So my crush that I had on Corinna, this crush, dissolved away, and it just ran out of my ear onto the floor and gathered in a ball and scurried out the front door of the restaurant and slammed the door. Well, the waiter left, thank heavens. And I wasn't mad at Corinna. I was more hurt, you know what I mean? But I didn't want to ruin the night. I didn't want to ruin the night and turn it into another one of these nights like Diet the Second. I just wanted to let it roll off my back like a duck, and so just we could move along. And so we just started talking about how delicious the soup was, and eventually we got back to having a reasonably nice date. Now, initially, when I asked her out on this date, I wanted to go out to dinner and then go out drinking with her. Yes. But all of that was washed away when she almost started making out with our wait staff. Anyhow, but I wasn't going to be irritated at her. I just wanted to get out. So we're walking, we leave the restaurant and we're walking, and I say, here's the thing. I've got this great big audition tomorrow. A lie. I said, I've got this great big audition tomorrow, and I got some homework that I just haven't done on it. A lie. And I got to get home to work on that monologue so that I'll be good for tomorrow's audition. A lie. And she said, it's okay. I got stuff to do in the morning too. Probably a lie. Yeah. Anyhow. So walked her home, said goodnight. There was no kiss, no loss. It's fine. And I walked home. I stopped at the local deli on the way home and got a beer for the rest of the walk home. Of course I did. Now, here's the thing. The next day at the Winter Garden Theater in the lobby, everything was fine between me and Corinna. Only it was a little bit easier. We could still make each other laugh. We still took breaks together. We still enjoyed each other's company. Only now I had the luxury of not having a crush on her anymore. Yes. Oh, it was another win-win situation. This fantastically pretty woman who's really funny, and we enjoy each other's company. But there isn't that gooey sauce of an unhappy relationship poured over it like syrup. Yes, it was nothing like that. So, what happened? You know what happened. The headphone company took her and spirited her away to another theater up the street. And you know who showed up? Cabiria. Yes, it was always so fantastic to see the lovely, the beautiful, the hilarious Cabiria. Now, she was back at the Winter Garden Theater for a while. When one Wednesday, they said, listen, there's a show that we need to paper the audience with. And it's a 5 o'clock show between the Wednesday matinee and the Wednesday evening show. And it's shown at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday so that other Broadway actors can paper the house and get in the audience in on this comedy, this one-person comedy show that was going to go on. Right. So that was at the Court Theater. Yes, right there in Midtown, the Court, C-O-R-T, the Court Theater. And you'll never guess who I kissed at the Court Theater. Yes, I did kiss someone, and you'll never guess who. And I'll tell you about that next time. I really appreciate that you've been with me on this journey, and I look forward to telling you about what happened next. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that stuff. Please do. All right. Thank you again.